What I like to do in these types of sessions is really just imagine I have the same assignment you all have and talk through my research process, how I would go about researching for this assignment. With this being such a small group, I want you to feel like you guys can interrupt me at any time. If you have questions, if I'm going too fast, if you want me to re-explain something. So feel free to, make this a discussion or a conversation as we go. So I saw what you all are looking at is you're really picking like a landscape that for this case study. And so I picked my own landscape. I picked desert grasslands as mine. I thought that would be, I know we have desert grasslands in the area. I thought it would be a way for me to learn a little bit more about that. Before I start researching or anything though, what I want to say is my skill set is really librarianship and research. I have a master's in librarianship and a second master's in English. So that's a long way of saying I'm not a geographer. I'm not an expert on those topics, but I can certainly help you with your research projects because I'm familiar with all the resources we have, and I can help you shape your research question, develop the keywords, and find the right resource to look in for finding your research. So, I'm going to be here tonight to talk about research, but I'm also available this entire semester and really through your whole academic career. As Maggie said, I'm the library's liaison for geography. I also do computer science, cybersecurity, and the Bachelor of Innovation program. So I purchase all of our materials for geography with a lot of faculty input. And then I also provide instruction like this, and then I can help students one-on-one as well. So you can all reach out to me as you get further along in your own research, and we can meet online, we can meet in person, whatever's easiest for you, but I can help you with your individual topics. And then after the semester, I'm still your librarian since you're all in GES. So just keep my email address handy. I'll share that here in the chat, and just know that you can reach out to me at any time for this class or throughout your academic career at UCCS. So how many of you have used the library for research? And when I ask that question, that could be going into the library and pulling a book off the shelf, or that could be just accessing one of our databases and conducting online research through the library that way.
I use the digital library a lot.
Use a digital library a lot, Jessica? So you going into our databases a lot through the website, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And then Samantha, I saw your hand up. Is that similar for you as well, or?
Yeah, so I go to the UCCS library first before using like Google Scholar or something if there's like a publication or research I'm looking for.
Great. Anyone else have any experience with the library before? Okay, so it sounds like a lot of this will end up being new tonight. So I am actually going to start with Google Scholar because I saw that Maggie mentioned it. And there's a way, if you haven't seen yet, there's a way to actually connect Google Scholar directly with the Kramer Family Library so that if we have the full text available for that publication, you can get it from us instead of having, encountering a paywall or something through Google Scholar. So I'll start there. Just a few thoughts on the library or details about the library. We have a print collection of about 400,000 books. And then we have about 600,000 electronic books now. And then we subscribe to over 200 databases. So we have millions of articles available through those databases, a lot of peer-reviewed journal articles, but we also have newspaper articles, magazines, popular publications. We have a lot of streaming videos now too that are available. So there are even documentaries you could find that might be useful for getting background information. So what I'm going to really focus on tonight is using the library's resources off campus to conduct research, since we're all, it looks like, in that situation right now. So if there aren't any questions, let me go ahead and bring up Google Scholar. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll just start there with my sample topic, which is desert grassland. So let me just share my display real quick here. Okay, so you should all be seeing the Kramer Family Library website right now. Is that showing up okay? Great. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just open a new tab, and I'm going to go to Google Scholar. So how many of you have used Google Scholar before? I see Samantha. Eric, you have two.
Yeah.
So Google Scholar is really Google's attempt to, in some ways, kind of compete with libraries. What it does, instead of searching, the entirety of the internet like Google does, it searches a much smaller index of academic publications. Those may be in the form of books, or they may be journal articles, review articles, things of that nature. Now, if I start searching Google from off campus, I'm just going to let's just put in desert. You can see I was doing some work on this earlier. Let's just put in desert grassland ecology. You can see, actually, you can see I'm already getting library links here. So you can see some of these results. I got over 300,000 results. Some of these results are coming from Google Books. So I'm going to hit a paywall there. I'll have to buy this book if I want to get more than an excerpt. But some of these you will see, I actually have my Google account connected to the Kramer Family Library. So anytime I'm logged into my Google account, it's going to show me anytime a title is available through the library. So this is a great example, Grassland Ecology in China, Perspectives and Challenges. This is from a journal article, or from a journal, it looks like Frontiers of Agricultural. There's more to that title. If I click on it here, what it's going to do is take me directly to the journal site. In this case, this one is freely available, so I can just download the PDF, but often on Google Scholar, you will encounter a paywall where it will ask you to purchase the article, for 30, 40, 50 bucks, depending on the article, maybe even more. What this does is actually show me if we have it available through the library, and I can click on that full text at UCCS link if we do. And what it's going to do is take me to a page where I can go in and access, this is an open access title, so I can go in and view it that way as well through the library's account. If it were a title that was not open access, meaning it wasn't freely available and open to the general public, this would give me access to things that are behind a paywall. And I don't know how much you've used Google Scholar before, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and just limit this a little bit. Let's just limit this to 2017, publications since 2017. You can see I've got a lot more here that are available through UCCS. Here's actually the one I was looking for. This is a great example. If I click on this title for this particular article from the journal Plant and Soil, it's going to take me to the vendor's website, to the publisher's website, and want me to purchase the article for 40 bucks. You should never do that. The library has subscriptions to all these. Your tuition is really paying the bill for all of our subscriptions. So the key is to access them using the full text at UCCS. Then you can get through the library's access and get to the full article without the need to actually pay for it. So you can see right there, I can download that PDF. So how did I connect my Google Scholar to the Kramer Family Library? Let me show you. When you're in Google Scholar, if you click on the menu on the left-hand side, it's going to give you a settings option here. And if you go to settings, it's a little bit larger for you, and go to library links, you will see a place where you can search for different libraries. And so if you just do a search for University of Colorado, spacing helps. You can see all the CU libraries in there, including the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. So if you just check that and save it, then that's always going to be enabled whenever you're logged into your Gmail or Google account. Now, a couple other things I want to show you with Google Scholar. If you haven't used it a lot, there's a few features in Google Scholar I wanted to point out. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this responses of nutrient resorption to warming, etc. This article from Plant and Soil. A couple features I really like about Google Scholar. One is that if you go to cited by, you can see everyone who has cited that article since its publication. So if you think of scholarship as a conversation, then you can see how that conversation has transpired since that publication. What scholars have cited that research, made use of it, built upon it. And so this is a way for me to see who has responded to that research and to maybe find some other relevant publications that I could make use of in my case study. So that's handy, the cited by option. The other thing I really wanted to point out is this quotation mark. If you have not used this before, if you click on the Cite button here, looks like the quotation mark, it will bring up MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard style, and Vancouver style citations. So these are pre-formatted citations provided by Google Scholar in all of these different citation styles. It sounds like you can use APA, MLA, or Chicago, whichever you're most comfortable with, but this gives you a great starting point for your citations. One thing I would caution about these is these citations are not being built by, a human being. They're simply computer software that's taking the rules of MLA or APA, taking the publication information it has for whatever the article is, and then tries to apply those rules to the data. So I would double check these. You can sometimes see errors, mistakes in them, but they're a great starting point instead of having to build citations from scratch. Now, another feature in Google Scholar is it supports RefWorks. Has anyone in here used RefWorks before? I see Maggie's hand.
Actually, I wanted to know something.
Yeah, go for it.
So there are often mistakes here, and one common mistake is that all the words are in all caps or the title is not in sentence case. It has a cap at the beginning of every word. So you'll want to switch that because look, no citation uses anything but sentence case. They're all in sentence case. So there should never be a title where all the words are capitalized. That's for books. And the other thing is you've got to be really careful that you pick up the DOI, the digital object identifier, from the article itself, not from within your library login, because then when someone clicks on it, it just goes to the login page.
Those are great points. Yeah, these resources that we're accessing through the library are exclusively available through the library for UCCS students, faculty, and staff. So you do need to be careful when you share these that the links are going to work for all of your readers. And so if you use the links that come directly from the library, people may not be able to log in on those depending on their affiliation with the campus. So you can get a DOI number, and you'll find those often in the articles, and then some of the databases will provide the DOI as well, and the citation. And that would just be a document identifier number that will help anyone who's not affiliated with UCCS to track down that article and still get to it. So the library has purchased a campus subscription to this tool called RefWorks. RefWorks is a citation management program. So its purpose is twofold. One, it can organize all of your research into one place to keep it together, to make it easy for you to get back to it. You could even use RefWorks to build your own repository of basically all your research through your academic or professional career so that you can refer back to it if you ever need to. And then the other purpose of RefWorks is it can help you build your citations, and you can actually edit the citation rules in there, customize them as you need be, and have them applied to your references within RefWorks. The thing that's neat about RefWorks is it's supported pretty widely in the research world. Virtually all of the library's databases support RefWorks, and as you'll see here, Google Scholar even supports RefWorks. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate RefWorks throughout this research process a little bit, and then what I will do at the end is show you how you would actually sign up for and activate your free RefWorks account from UCCS, and then show you a little bit about how you might build your bibliography using it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this article and export it to my own personal RefWorks account so that I can keep track of it. So this will be a nice demonstration of how that tool works. So at the bottom of this site site page on Google Scholar, I can get to it just by clicking those quotation marks. Below the citations, I can see that RefWorks button, so I'll go ahead and open that. And what it's going to do is ask me, do you want to export this to RefWorks? I'm going to say yes, go ahead and export it. And I'm already logged into my RefWorks account. So it's asking me here, do you want to import this into a folder? I'm going to go ahead and just not put it into a folder at this point. I'm going to go ahead and import it. And what you'll see here is that RefWorks has imported that article. And I can go view my listing of references, and you can see I've got that one in here. So you can see what RefWorks did is pull in the publishing information. It has the title of the article, the authors, all the publishing information you would need for that citation. Now, in this case, it does not give you a link directly here. It just says the source name is Google, but I could go up to the top here. There's a pencil icon, and I could click that pencil icon and go ahead and edit this entry. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do here is just add that URL from my address bar. I'm going to go ahead and just add that here for, yeah, URL. And then now I have a entry in my RefWorks account that has that particular source in here. Let's see, come on, RefWorks. And it will now have that link in there as well. So I can get right back into that article. So you can see the utility of it is really, it's just going to keep all your research together and allow you to get back to it very easily. I'm curious, what methods do you all use to keep track of your research now?
Endless amounts of tabs. For being
I hear that one a lot. Lots of tabs. Just keep them all open until you're done researching. So yes, that's a legit strategy. Any others?
Well, I just save it to the desktop.
Yeah, had a lot of people who will just like save it to a Word document or a Google Docs and just put a list of links in there so they can get back to them. So I don't want to be prescriptive tonight and tell you you necessarily have to use RefWorks, but I would encourage you to try it because there's some other features that you will see. For example, I'll go ahead and show you this one. I could put things into folders. So I could go ahead and check this one source I've added here. I could go ahead and assign it to a folder, maybe call it, landscape project. And then now I can start collecting all of that research into a folder. Let's see if it actually created that. RefWorks is acting a little funny in my Edge browser. It may work best in Chrome or Firefox. Yeah, okay, so it did go ahead and add it. Just didn't put anything into it yet. So you can organize your research by class, by assignment, but you could build that archive. The storage space is basically limitless, so you could really keep hundreds of articles in here. The other thing I'll show you later is that RefWorks also lets you actually put PDFs into here, and so I will download a PDF for an article later and drop it in. And what's neat about doing that is RefWorks will actually identify all the publishing information. It's going to compare that article to a database and then let me annotate it and everything. So you can even store your PDFs directly in here in addition to the publication information. So it is supported by Google Scholar, and as we'll see later, the library's other research tools all support RefWorks as well. So it's really well integrated into our research experience. So it makes it pretty easy to rely on it as you're using the library. So any questions about using Google Scholar or connecting it to the Kramer Family Library?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on then to the library website, and we're going to start looking at some of the library's own tools for conducting research. So I'm on the library homepage. It's kfl.uccs.edu. if you've been here before, you may notice that there's a few different ways to go about conducting research. So I want to walk you through these different tabs and kind of explain the purpose of each of them. OneSearch is really our attempt at kind of something like Google Scholar. What OneSearch does is search about 90% of the library's databases. There are some business databases, et cetera, that aren't in there, but the majority of our databases are in OneSearch. So before we got OneSearch, if you wanted to search through the library's databases, you had to go to the database listings, find the appropriate database. There's over 200 available, and then start searching them individually. So what OneSearch does is take basically all of those databases, combine them into a single interface so that you can search them all simultaneously and just see the whole breadth of what we have on the topic through that one interface. Now, you can also go into the individual databases. You will see if you go to find databases by subject, we have listings here for geography and environmental studies. And if you look at this really highlights the individual databases we have that are best suited for geography, environmental studies research. So we have these best bets, Science Direct and Scopus. If I have some time tonight, I'm going to try and at least get into Science Direct. It's a great database, but I would also like to show you Scopus as well. Even though both of those, everything you find in Science Direct and Scopus, you will find it through OneSearch, as I'm going to show you here in a minute. There are some specialized features in Science Direct and Scopus that aren't available in OneSearch. So as you get further into your research, there may be situations where you just want to go into Science Direct and take advantage of some of its exclusive features. But I'm going to start with OneSearch. A couple other things to point out. We also have the books catalog search. This really just searches what's on the library shelves. So it's going to show you what's in the library currently. But OneSearch will also search the catalog. So if you want to see what books are available in the library, you can do that through OneSearch as well. And then the last tab we are going to look at tonight, definitely, it's the periodical search. So maybe as you're going about research, you keep saying the same journal name over and over. For example, plant and soil, we saw that in Google Scholar. I was in OneSearch earlier today and was seeing plant and soil come up a bit. This would be a place where I can see how far back the library's access to plant and soil that one journal goes to. So this is a tool for searching for a specific publication and getting to its archive. So we'll come back to that here in a minute. But I'm just going to start here with OneSearch. And I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see, what search am I going to start with? I'm going to go ahead and just do that same search, desert, grassland, ecology. And I'm going to see what's available through OneSearch. Make this nice and large here so you can all see it. All right, so this is both the kind of beauty and downside of OneSearch is it searches everything we have access to. So you can see I got a ton of results. So initially I got almost 50,000 results for that phrase search, desert, grassland, ecology. So that's a lot to go through. That's way too many for honestly to go through. So OneSearch works through two ways. You can refine your search through keywords. So I could add additional keywords or tweak my keywords, or I could use the refine your search options here in the left-hand side. These are really the power of OneSearch because they let you drill down to specific types of publications. You can limit by discipline. So maybe you only want to see journals from the field of ecology or from biology or environmental sciences. You can limit down to just that lens. You can also filter by publication date, and then you can use subject terms as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start by limiting my search to books. So I can see out of these 47,000 results, there's about 153 books and ebooks available through the library that address this, this topic. So I've got now just my listing of 53 books here. I could further narrow this list by limiting by publication date. I can see some of these like are from 1995. So some of these go pretty far back. Maybe I just want to see the more current research. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just limit to the last 5 years. And now I have 41 books available through the library, published in the last 5 years that seem to be relevant to my search topic. So here's one, Grasslands of the World, Diversity, Management, and Conservation. That's a little too big. This is a book published in 2018. I can see it's an electronic book available online, so I don't need to go into the library to access it. One thing I noticed about your topic is there's really an expectation that these titles that your sources be academic in nature. So any suggestions how I could figure out whether or not Grasslands of the World is an academic book? Any ideas? It's tricky when you're in here because it doesn't just call out that this is an academic title. What I end up typically doing is one of two things. If I want to determine if the book is, published by academic researchers, one is to look at the publisher. So in this case, it's CRC Press. Well, that doesn't tell me a whole lot, but what I can do is I can Google CRC Press, and I can see that this publisher is really just a wing of Taylor and Francis, a major academic publisher the library does a lot of business with, and you can see they really focus on professional, so technical books and academic books. So that's one indication here that this would be an academic source that would be viable for this project. Now, another thing I could do too is maybe explore the authors a little bit more. Just like Dr. Gaddis has a research focus, these authors are going to have their own research focuses as well. So I could research the authors' names themselves and get a better sense of who they are and maybe see if they have a university affiliation. I could also just click on their names and look at other publications they've done and get a better sense of their publishing history. And so I can see here that these are, largely books being published by academic publishers, another indication that this would be an academic title. Now, if you notice too, there's quite a bit of information about this book too. So before I actually access the full text link, I can get access to a brief summary of this book. So this one sounds very appropriate. It explores grasslands as a biome. It does address, desert grasslands, woodlands, alpine, etc. It's an exploration of grasslands from the earliest time to the present. So this would really be a great place to start to get an introduction for myself to learn more about desert grasslands. Now I can also see as I scroll down, there's a fuller summary of it. So it goes into a lot more detail. Sometimes you'll even see the table of contents. You may even see reviews on the book. So those are all pieces of information you can look at to get a better sense of how relevant this book is and whether or not you want to go to the trouble of exploring it further. Now, since this one is an ebook, I can access it off campus. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the full text. And I'll show you there's a couple different ways to read our ebooks. So this one is available in a couple different formats. We get this one directly through Taylor and Francis. We have different ebook vendors and they all have a little bit different features. Taylor and Francis is great because they let you download the entire book as an ebook. It has no copy protection. It doesn't expire. You really have that book indefinitely until you delete that file. I could also read the book online just by clicking the read online link and reading it here in my browser. It works pretty well. I find it to be a little clunky to read them this way, and I typically just get the PDF, but you can see they've provided a digital copy of that entire book. It is even searchable, and I can bring up the table of contents here on the left-hand side and zero in on sections that are really relevant to my particular topic. Now, if I go back and grab that PDF, go ahead and download that real quick. Let's see, oh, it's going pretty fast. Yeah, the PDF is really nice because I can read it offline and I can keep it for myself. So Has the same features. You can see it presents the book just in digital format, but it looks exactly as it appeared in print. And then you can see I can get access to the table of contents, and then I could just Control F to search within that book to see maybe where they talk about deserts, for example, and see every time, and they're mentioned quite heavily throughout this book, but I could zero in then on those particular sections that seem to be the most relevant. So our ebook library is really growing. As I said, we have about 600,000 titles. So you're going to see a lot of ebooks in here. And you can access them really from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be, even in Colorado Springs. You'll just have to log in with your UCCS and username and password to prove you're a student in order to get into the full text. Now, just scrolling down a little bit, I was going to see if I could find a print book in here as well, just to kind of point out the differences so that you can identify those. There are a lot of ebooks. Yeah, there's a ton of ebooks on this title. Okay, well, we may just have to, okay, here we go. Here's the Oxford Handbook of Environmental History. So this is a print book. I can tell because it's just this book instead of ebook. There's no link to read online. And what it provides me with, oops. There we go. What it provides me with is the availability status. So I can see that book is sitting on the shelf right now. It tells me it's on the 3rd floor of the library, and it gives me the call number so I can track that book down. So, it's a little bit more effort having to go into the building, but it's real simple. You can walk into the reference desk and our librarians will help you track it down on the shelf. I think for the print books, that's where it's especially helpful to have access to the reviews, the table of contents, et cetera, because you might want to really evaluate those before you make the effort of going onto campus and getting that book off the shelves. Any questions so far? Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's look at, see what was I wanted to show next. Yeah, let's look at journals too. And I want to play around with my search terms a little bit. So as I was exploring this, I saw how I was reading about how important fire mitigation can be with desert grasslands. So I'm just going to tweak my search here. So what I'm going to do initially is clear my filters on the left-hand side. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tweak this a little bit. So let's change this to desert grassland. I'm just going to put in fire mitigation and conduct that search again. And so I got about 1,800 results here. And this time I'm going to focus in on those peer-reviewed journal articles. So besides books by academic publishers, another academic source would be journal articles. So journal articles would be where researchers are publishing their latest research. There's a peer review process where a double-blind review happens where the reviewers don't know who the author is and vice versa. So there's really a lot of vetting that happens with these journal publications before they reach publication. And what you can do is check journal articles on the left-hand side and check peer review. So there's a peer review limiter you can use as well. If you use those in combination, what you're going to do is filter out any of the reviews, editorials, things of that nature that are not original research that's gone through a peer review process. So whenever you're looking for journal articles, check that peer review option on the left-hand side as well, just to ensure that you're getting articles that have truly been peer reviewed and not like proceedings and reviews and things of that nature. Now, when you're limiting your search in here with journal articles, I think this is where the discipline filters can become really useful. If you're getting a lot of results, you might want to limit by publication date, for example. So I'm going to limit to the last 5 years. But you might also think about the lens that you're looking through. Are you looking at this topic through an agricultural lens? Are you looking at it more through an ecological or environmental lens? So I could check just ecology and environmental studies, for example, here, and filter out those publications from other disciplines. So now I've got about 288 articles, all published within the last 5 years. they're peer-reviewed, they're journal articles, and they're from the perspective of either environmental sciences or ecology. So now I can see these journal articles, and virtually all of our journals now are electronic. The library has largely canceled our print subscriptions. It's so much easier for us to provide access electronically. So if you're working with journal articles, you're primarily going to be accessing them electronically through a database. So I'm going to go ahead, and here's one: fire changes the spatial distribution and sources of soil organic carbon in a grassland shrubland transition zone. So a bit of a mouthful of the title. You can see here, this is also published in that journal Plant and Soil, which I saw in Google Scholar earlier. I can see that the library has the full text. Sometimes you will come across where we don't have the full text. It may just say citation online, and I'll show you how to deal with that here in a little bit. But in this case, I could get right to it through that full text link. Again, you have the more info option, and I want to point this out because what they do for journal articles is they always pull out the abstract from the article and provide it there under more info. So, you may find that these journal articles may be pretty significant in length and may require some time for you to read them. So before you take the time to download the article and start reading through it, I would recommend reading through the abstract and just getting a sense of how relevant this article really is to your research project. The abstract is typically written by the authors of the article and just gives you a nice summation of what their hypothesis was, what they were studying, what the results were, and maybe start hinting at some of the implications of that. So that's really helpful information to help you evaluate the relevancy of a particular journal article. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. So let's go ahead and do the full text online. And so what happens, as you've probably noticed with OneSearch, is it's really just kind of a front end for all the library's databases. Nothing is housed in OneSearch. Anytime I click any of these links, it takes me out of OneSearch and puts me into the relevant database where it found the publication. So this one is coming from SpringerLink. And I can see the full article here is a website. I can also download it as a PDF, which will show me how it appeared in print. One of the nice features you'll see in a lot of our databases is they will pull the references out of the publication and make them available, maybe as a sidebar or as like a table. The references can be so helpful in finding other relevant articles. So I can see, this article was published in December 2018. What information or what articles were the authors relying on in doing their own research? So you can kind of work backwards, see who their sources are. And what's helpful is if it's available through that database, so in this case, SpringerLink, I can get directly to that article, or it will provide a Google Scholar entry if it's available through Google Scholar. In the case where it's not available, directly through here, I could just copy and paste the title, and I could paste that back into OneSearch and do a search for it there to see if the library has access to it, maybe through another database. But these are a goldmine really for finding additional sources for your own research. But yeah, you can see right here, a lot of these are available either through Google Scholar or just directly through SpringerLink. Now I'm going to download the PDF for this one. And I want to show you two ways you can put this content into RefWorks, that citation management tool I was talking about. So here's the full article, and you can see the benefit of grabbing the PDF here is that you can see exactly how it appeared in print, and you can get to the DOI. So in this case, if I were citing this one, I could copy that DOI number and include it in my citation, that whole URL right there. And then any other reader, regardless of their affiliation with UCCS, would be able to track down at least the abstract and a description of that article using that DOI. So let's go ahead and just download this actually to my computer. So I have the PDF locally. Let's see. Okay, and so you can see I've got that PDF here on my computer. So RefWorks has two ways to, get out of my way bar. RefWorks has two ways to load these articles into it. So if I'm, get back to here. So one is, OneSearch actually has RefWorks support built right into it. So if you look to the right of every title, you will see a series of icons. One's a permanent link, another is a cite this item button, which is very similar to what Google Scholar has, where you can choose your citation style and it will try and give you a pre-formatted citation. In this case, it actually did pull the DOI in, which is great. So that's better than that experience on Google Scholar. And then if you look to the right of that, you'll see some other options. One is to email yourself the article. You can add it to a folder in OneSearch. You can actually create a OneSearch account and you can link it to your Dropbox or to OneSearch and actually save things directly there. And then go back. So I'm gonna have to reconduct that search. Okay. Yeah, here we are again. So to the right of all these icons is probably the most unmemorable icon. It's just 3 dots, but it's actually the most important one. If you click on that, that will bring up the submenu, which has the ability to export to a bunch of different citation managers. So some of you may have experience with EasyBib or Zotero. As I said, what we have is RefWorks, but if you have one of those accounts, you could certainly use one of those too. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and export to RefWorks. And again, I get that same screen. I can choose yes. And this time I'll go ahead and just choose my landscape project folder, and I can go ahead and import that directly into my account. So RefWorks is built right into OneSearch in the same way it was in Google Scholar, making it very easy for me to get to back to that article. Now, when you export a title from OneSearch, it actually even brings in more information. Look, in this case, it brought in the full abstract, which is nice to have. Maybe that will, jog my memory if it's been a while since I imported this to remind me which article this was. Again, pulls in all the publication information and brings in a URL that will get you back to the full text. So really a nice way to keep track of your research and get back to it very easily. Now, I also said that you could put a PDF directly into RefWorks. So what I've done is I've downloaded that PDF. Let's just try it. I haven't tried it with this file. It works like 99% of the time, except when I'm teaching. So we'll see how it goes this time. So I'm just going to drag it in. And RefWorks might take a second, should start importing that. If it doesn't, I may just try a different browser. Let's give that one more shot. Oh, I can see it's actually doing it right now. So you can see it is loading that document. It's taken that PDF I dragged and dropped into RefWorks, and it's already found the publishing information. You can see it matches what OneSearch exported. And so it's comparing that PDF to a large database that RefWorks has of all these different publications, and it's just using machine learning or artificial intelligence to identify that publication. So now you can see I have the same entry I had before, including that URL and everything, but now I also have the PDF in here. So I could just click on read and actually read that PDF directly in RefWorks. And then it even gives me annotation functions. So maybe I want to, as I'm reading, we'll see if this will work for me. Yeah, I can start highlighting text in here. And so I could actually digitally annotate my journal articles directly in RefWorks. I can even make comments in here too. See if it's going to let me do that. Comment may not. It's real temperamental with browsers. I am in Microsoft Edge. I'm on a Mac. If you have Google Chrome or Firefox, those may work better. I just use Edge as my default browser at home, but obviously it's giving me a little trouble with getting to the comment feature. But that should work in other browsers a little bit better than this one. One other thing while I'm in RefWorks is, I put things into folders. So I started that landscape project folder. Besides organizing your research in RefWorks, the other benefit is you can share those folders. So maybe you're doing a group assignment, or maybe you wanted to share your research with a professor. You could, put things into folders, and then you could share that folder by either making a public URL that anyone who has that URL can get in and view those links regardless of whether or not they have a RefWorks account, or you could invite people by their email address and give them different permissions in that folder. So maybe you only want them to have read-only access. You could do that. You could also give them the ability to annotate. So maybe you want them to be able to make comments or to highlight as well in those articles. It will actually show a name and it will color code each comment so you can identify the different voices in there and who's been working on the document. And then it will also give you a modify option, which is really helpful for group work. Other people who you've invited, who you've given modification privileges to, could actually add to the folder. So they could add additional research. Maybe you're doing a collaborative research project, so you could kind of crowdsource that research together and put it all into that same shared folder. So just some other nice features in RefWorks. Now I'm back here at this listing of results. I wanted to explain an option here at the top. There's an option to add results beyond your library's collection. So by default, it only really searches what we have access to, the books we have access to, the journals we subscribe to, our databases, et cetera. But if I check this box, it's going to add in resources that we just don't have access to, whether it's through, we just don't have a subscription or what. But this is going to show you even more research that might be available. And just because the library doesn't actually own that article doesn't mean we can't get it for you. So in this case, I check that box. I can see I'm still getting things that are available through the library. But now I'm starting to notice things like this, where it says citation online. So if I click on that one, that's a situation where the library does not actually have full text access to this article. We have the abstract, we have a description of it, but we don't have the PDF, we don't have the full text. But if you notice on the right-hand side here, there's a request through interlibrary loan option. Has anyone ever used interlibrary loan before, either at our library or at any other libraries? You have, Erilyn? Was it at our library or another library? Just out of curiosity.
In your library, a few years ago, I think, actually, I think you helped me to get a.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Yes, from El Salvador, because I was doing my first research on mangroves.
Awesome,
we have to go to books in Spanish from another library.
Yeah, so interlibrary loan, that's a great point to bring up here, Erilyn, is we can use interlibrary loan to get articles that the library doesn't have access to, but also books. And in the case of books, we may get them in electronic format, or we may get them in print format. And we've actually had books come from, we had a art book come from New Zealand one time because they were the only owning library that we could find that had access to it. So, with the books, it takes some time because it goes through the mail, but with electronic articles, we can get those, within 24 hours typically, because we're going to get them electronically from another library that has an electronic copy of it. So if you've never used interlibrary loan before, let me show you how it works and then how you would go about accessing your account. So I think I'm already logged in probably. We have single sign-on in the library. So if you're logged into your email or Canvas, you're already basically logged into the library's resources. So I'm going to go ahead and just click request through interlibrary loan. And you can see I'm in, it just took me immediately to the library's interlibrary loan tool, Iliad. And what it did is it actually pulled all the publication information in for me automatically. So it went ahead and pulled in the title, the volume, etc., everything I would need to complete that request. So all I need to do in this case is just click submit request, and it's going to go ahead and send this request to our interlibrary loan department. And then they would contact me within 24 hours and tell me, if they have it, they would alert me that the PDF is available. And then if they didn't have it, couldn't get access to it, they would let me know as well. Anything that has been delivered that you can get access to, that we have been able to get access to, you just get an email notification to your UCCS account. And then you can see over here on the left-hand side, outstanding requests, or you can see what's already been received. And this is where I could go in and actually download that PDF that's been delivered from another library. So on the library website, to get to interlibrary loan, you would just, below OneSearch, you will see there's actually a RefWorks button here, which we'll look at here in a little bit on getting signed up for RefWorks. But you'll see there's also an interlibrary loan button. So you can go ahead and click that. And then on here, you can log into Iliad using your UCCS account. So if you've never used the interlibrary loan service, go ahead and just log in with your UCCS account. It creates your account immediately at login. It asks you just to answer a few questions, and then you can get back into that at any time. It's a totally free service. The library pays all the bills, so we pay any shipping costs or any other costs. So don't ever feel like you have to pay for an article, through Google or another system. You could just go in and request it through here. I'm logged into my account. You could see too how I would put in a book request. So you can see there's a option here to request an article where I could fill out that form, or there's a books other loans option where I can just put in the publishing information from that book and have them see if they can get a physical or electronic copy of that. So if you've never used it before, you already have an account. Basically, you just need to log in that first time, answer a few questions to fully activate it, and then you can start taking advantage of that resource. I know that, when I was an undergrad and a graduate student, my first couple of years as an undergrad, I was able to find everything I needed through the library. But as your research gets more specialized, and you get deeper into a topic, and you start really exploring everything that's been published about it, you're going to find that there are things we just don't have access to. And interlibrary loan is really an essential tool for that piece, to get you that one article that you really need that maybe you can't get otherwise. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this here. And let's see what I wanted to talk about next. And oh, hey, Maggie, I saw your comment about keeping track of search terms. That's a great point to make, because you can't actually do that even through OneSearch. So I could actually save my search here. So I have desert grassland fire mitigation. So notice the star up here at the top. If I click that, it's going to save that search for me and save whatever filters I had available. So I could sign in with my Google account and save it, or save it with my Microsoft account, my UCCS account. And that would save that search. And so I might want to periodically rerun that search if I'm doing ongoing research on a topic, because that will, keep revealing any new research that has been published maybe since the last time I conducted it. So you can save a number of searches in here. And as you're experimenting with different search terms, you may find, that magic combination of terms that has been really helpful in revealing useful information. And instead of forgetting it, you could use this to save it, or as Maggie suggested, maybe just have a Word document or some notes and save those search terms there, those combinations that have been effective for you, because you may need to come back and use them again, or some variation of them again. Yeah, Erin, you had a question or comment?
I have a comment. So when you save your keywords for your research, what it does is something new come up available to the library, or another paper gets published, the paper gets immediately sent to you, because the library already know what are you searching for. what is your study? So I have had several readings that are related to my past and my present research that the library automatically emails it to me.
Nice. Yeah, this won't actually email. You have to kind of go in and run it manually. But you're right that there is always new information being added automatically to OneSearch. I mean, you could repeat the search I do today. I may get different results if I search tomorrow because OneSearch is indexed every night. So any new publications, any new books we've added during that day are going to be added. They're going to be ingested and indexed by OneSearch and then available that next day. So the content, the publications that are available are going to, it's a dynamic database. It's going to update daily, and saving those search terms and repeating them periodically is going to, help you uncover any new publications since maybe the last time you conducted that search. One way I think that's really helpful in doing that is I could, maybe I always want to see the newest publications on that topic. So this will save my search terms. So one thing I could do is I could sort this. Right now it's sorted by relevance, but I could sort this by date newest and then save that search. And every time I run it, the newest publications are always going to be at the top. So it immediately I can see what has been published since the last time I ran that search. So sorting by date newest can be really helpful for that purpose. Any other comments or questions about anything we've looked at so far? Okay, let's move on to the next thing I went to look at. So I'm going to close a few tabs here because it's getting a little wild up here with all the tabs. So what I'm going to do is go back to the library database. And what I want to do now is start looking at the periodicals tab. So this is, as you're doing this research, this is also a chance for you to become more familiar with some of the important journals that are in your discipline. And so as you're researching, you may see journals, the same journals come up time and time again. And that can be an indication that you might want to search that journal exclusively. You may just want to see what's available in that one journal on your topic. And so that's where I can take advantage of the periodicals tab to search for a specific publication to see if the library has, one, access to it, and then how extensive is that access? How far back do our archives go? And so in this case, I'm going to try plant and soil because I've seen that a couple of times in my research so far. I'm going to see, how deep our archives are for that one journal. So I've done a search for plant and soil. I can see the journal here. I can see that it's a peer-reviewed journal, which is really helpful. And then I can see all of the different library databases that have access to that journal. So we actually have it available through a number of different databases, but you can see the coverage really varies depending on the database. So for example, Academic Search Premier is 2003 to 1 year. It's common to see what's called an embargo period on publications where libraries may not get access to them for a year after they're published. In this case, we've actually gone and gotten a direct subscription, it looks like, that does give us present access because all our other databases are providing, limited access where they don't have the present day publications. But we do have this one link here that has 97 to present that I can use. And then if I need to go back, I can see that JSTOR Life Sciences, this database, actually goes back as far as 1948. So depending on what you're looking for, you really want to pay attention to that coverage period just to see what coverage we really have available. And I'm going to go ahead and open up that Springer Link contemporary database to get to that present day coverage. And so now I can see a little bit more information about plant and soil. It's an international journal on plant-soil relationships. I can see the guidelines for submission if I ever wanted to submit my research there and get a sense about what that submission process looks like. And then I can see, information about its impact factor. So, on average, how many citations is it generating for each publication? I can see, kind of their turnaround time. So this is really helpful information, not just for scholars, but also for researchers who are considering submitting to this particular journal. And then you can see here that it would normally cost $119 for an issue, but the library has a subscription, so you have access to the articles already. And then what I can do is scroll down and see the latest issue. So I can see the September 2021 issue, or I can do, I can view all the volumes and issues. And so that's what I want to do in this case, is I want to see what Plant and Soil has on desert grassland. So let's go ahead and just put desert grassland in here, and let's see how extensively that topic has been covered in this one journal. So I actually got 348 articles that have some mention of desert grassland in them. So interestingly, I think this is the one we just looked at, that responses of nutrient resorption. So there's the one we've already seen. But as I look here, I can see there's quite a few other articles available with PDFs. And again, it's going to give me some of those same limiters that we saw in OneSearch. So it does give me the ability to limit by discipline. Maybe I want to see entirely through the ecology lens or through an agricultural lens. You can see I can also sort by publication date, relevancy, etc. But that's a really nice way to do a deep dive on one particular journal and see what their publishing record is on whatever given topic you happen to be researching. Okay. So I want to show you, let me go ahead and show you a little bit more in reference. Yeah, Maggie, go for it.
I just wanted to talk about one thing. So for the purposes of this paper, it might be appropriate to look, find a paper that's right up your alley, like we keep landing on this one. And then look at the citations in that paper. And, you really, your needs here are minimal, right? You have to come up with a collection of 5 references, 3 at least peer reviewed. And this paper, I guarantee, has like hundreds of citations. And so as we're practicing and belaboring this whole research and writing process, only to write a 1,000-word paper, right? Be thinking about how when you're reading a paper, a certain sentence might be cited. And you might be like, oh, that's a really important point. And then you go find that article that was paraphrased by Wren in this article, you see? And so, you're not plagiarizing, you're just following what Joel's asking you to do, is like follow the scholarly conversation, right? So that's how you can do that. You could collect all of your references from a single really stellar paper that's about, water contamination in Nepal, something like that.
And that's great advice, because they're drawing on other relevant sources in their own research. So just farming through and mining those references is a great way to uncover some other possibilities for your project. And then I briefly showed you the annotation tools in RefWorks. Something I've done in my own experience is as I'm reading anything, I will just highlight or underline or circle anything that I think might be a quotation or a statistic or whatever the case may be that I want to use, just so that as I go back to that paper, I can very quickly zero in on that piece of information that I want to paraphrase or quote. So yeah, definitely, either print them out or electronically annotate them, but really engage with them, because the more you mark them up and make comments on them, the more you're going to be able to come back to that in the future and make use of that when it comes time to actually write up your project. Let's go ahead. We've got, and Maggie, I don't want to take up your whole class time. When would you like me to finish speaking?
We try to wrap it up by 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And we're in a 2-week module, so I don't need to do anything after you finish.
Got it. Okay, well, let me show you one other sign up for RefWorks, and then one other thing in there. And then what I would like to do is just briefly pull up another database, Science Direct, and then just see what questions you might have for me. So very quickly on the library website, go ahead and just log out of my RefWorks account. I wanted to show you all how to sign up for RefWorks. You don't get an account automatically. So if it's a tool you want to use, what you need to do is create an account. And so let me log out and I'll show you what that process looks like, because it is a little bit tricky. So, okay, so I'm logged out. So when you go back to that home page, when you're on the library website and click that RefWorks link, you'll be presented with this page right here. So it's the login page if you have an account, but it's also the account creation page. And what really throws people off is this use login from my institution. We are not listed there. You're not going to find UCCS in there. What you need to do is click create account to actually get signed up. So you do need to say UCCS email account. That's how they verify the free license. As long as it's coming from UCCS email account, they'll go ahead and grant you access. You do have to pick a password, so it's not going to be your UCCS password. After you complete that sign up process, it will send you a confirmation email, and you do need to click on that to fully activate it. Once you click on the confirmation email, you can get in and start using RefWorks immediately. One of the nice things about RefWorks too is as long as you have that UCCS account, you will be able to log in. So if you're alumni from UCCS, you can keep your RefWorks account and continue using it. So maybe you go to graduate school or you are working in a career that requires you to do this type of research. You can continue using that RefWorks account at other libraries or with Google Scholar, even after you've left UCCS, and even continue carrying all those references that you had collected while you were a student here. So it's really a great value. It's totally free, and you guys can keep using it even after you leave UCCS. Now, the only other thing I want to show you really quickly in here is it does have a bibliography feature. It has a lot of caveats, but I did want to show it to you. Because you can, if you spend some time with it, you can make it work. Let's see, that's the wrong password. I'm trying to put in my UCCS account after I just said you have to pick a different password. So there we go. Come on. Okay, well, maybe it's not going to let me sign back in. Okay, well, I'm not going to show it to you because I'm run out of time. And it really, I would recommend, my personal recommendation is get comfortable with the rules of APA or MLA in Chicago. I think it does students a disservice when they rely entirely on the pre-built citations that come from, RefWorks or other places. So RefWorks does have the ability, there's a bibliography option in there where it can take all your references and generate a bibliography. The problem again is that it's being generated by software, not a person. So you're going to notice capitalization issues, things like that, and it may not have the DOI link. So just a cautionary warning before you start using the bibliography tool in RefWorks. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to just show you super briefly is there are other databases you can use besides OneSearch. The articles that are found in them will also be available in OneSearch, but you may find some features in the individual databases that are useful. So I went back to that geography and environmental studies database. Science Direct is a great database with about 15,000 journals in it. So it's a huge database focused broadly on all of the sciences. So you can see it really covers everything from computer science, biology, geography, etc. Science Direct is pretty simple to search, and I'm just going to do my desert grassland. The couple things I wanted to show to you real quick. Let's go ahead and just click on this top title here about changes in soil and desert grassland ecosystems. What's helpful is that Science Direct will, just like every other database, will give the abstract and the PDF. It will also pull out the references. You can very easily get to those. Notice it has the same links to Google Scholar, et cetera, to get to the full text. What's also nice is that it will pull up recommended articles that might be relevant because they're closely related to this particular one. So that's another place you can look for, relevant articles that might be complementary to your research. It does also have the ability to export. So if you go to Cite here, they have the same RefWorks integration in ScienceDirect as well. So I don't really have time to demonstrate beyond that, but it works really the same way as we've been searching, just has some additional features in there. Scopus is very similar and offers those same types of features where it'll pull out the references and also suggest some more articles